California, 1989. Alfonso Lua and his family are hurtling down Interstate 205 outside the city of Stockton on a scorching August afternoon. It's so hot, in fact, that the family's car begins to overheat. With the engine rattling and steam billowing out the sides of the hood, Alfonso pulls over and takes a second to decide what he should do next. The family agrees that both him and his son Hector should walk to a nearby house so they can call for a tow. As the pair are hiking down the side of the interstate, Hector notices something in a bush. It appears to be a military jacket, all folded up in a bundle, as if it's wrapped around something. They pull the ragged coat out and, indeed, bundled inside is a videotape, one that lacks any sort of label or markings. Hector and his dad decide to keep the VHS. They find a house and manage to call for a tow, and the family is able to make it home safely. That evening, they decide to put the tape in their VCR to see what might be on it. Maybe it was a lost home video or a recorded TV show, but that wouldn't be the case. The reality was far darker. In fact, this videotape was so disturbing that the officers involved in the criminal investigation it would soon spark said that they had never seen anything like it. Newspapers would soon tie the tape to a satanic ritual, but enough exposition. Let's actually watch this thing for ourselves.
Look at the fire. This is my domain. My hell. I call it home. My hell. The whole sky is black with smoke.
In this video, we can see a house engulfed in flames in the distance. The camera is shaky and frantically zooms in and out. This might not be terribly significant on its own. Houses burn down all the time, and it's something most people would consider capturing on video if they happen to have a camcorder handy. But the unnerving narration from the man behind the camera offers a different dimension to this clip. It suggests that the person filming may have started the fire themselves, possibly for their own twisted pleasure considering how gleeful they seem. The man keeps ranting and eventually starts referring to a specific person. Somebody named Omar.
Look at it, Omar. This is what I've been doing on your week's vacation. I said I'll do it. I said I'll do it. I told you I'll do it. Take a good look at that. And you tell me that I set fire.
The man keeps rambling until the video abruptly ends.
But remember me. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
The Lua family would immediately turn the tape into the authorities, where it would eventually find its way to the California Department of Forestry. Captain Frank Curry would be charged with the investigation, and he, along with other investigators, would begin analyzing the tape frame by frame to see if they could match the blaze captured on the video to any recent reported fires. They could not. Without much else to go on, a county arson investigator would get in touch with the Lua family. Him and Alfonso's brother would return to the side of the highway where the tape had originally been found. It was easy to spot as Alfonso and his son had only taken the VHS and not the jacket it was wrapped in, and indeed, the coat was still splayed out by the bushes. The investigator would do a deeper search of the surrounding area, and he would uncover more items that would only make this case even more disturbing. In a nearby bush, a miniature skull would be found. In a pocket of the jacket, he would find a wooden pestle that supposedly had satanic markings on it. This fire may have had a dark spiritual motivation behind it. When you think of an arsonist, you probably think of someone burning down their house for the insurance money, or maybe somebody getting revenge on someone who wronged them. While these sorts of motivations are what typically drive your average arsonist, there is another kind that's a little different. Some people who commit arson set fires purely for their own pleasure. This is what you may refer to as a pyromaniac. Pyromania is an actual psychiatric impulse control disorder. These firebugs will set things ablaze to relieve anxiety, physical tension, and sometimes even for arousal. considering the way the cameraman was speaking in this video, it would be easy to classify him as a pyromaniac, someone who burns things down not out of any real-world gain, but just simply for their own enjoyment. After the extra items were found by the side of the road, the investigation would hit another dead end. They were able to surmise some physical details of the burning building from the tape, but they still couldn't connect it to any known fire. They also weren't able to identify the Omar being referred to in the video. It would seem this fire case had gone cold. Then everything would change. The show Unsolved Mysteries would air a segment about the tape, and many viewers would call in reporting that they knew where the fire had taken place. Police were then able to successfully link the blaze to an instance of arson that had occurred a year prior in 1988 in the nearby city of Redwood. The tips coming from viewers would continue to pour in, which would lead investigators to the home of a 17-year-old boy who was named Omar. The police would question the teen, who told them that the video was taken by his 19-year-old buddy, John. Instead of questioning John right away, they would put him under surveillance to see if they could catch him attempting to start a fire. They wouldn't have to wait very long, as John's garage would soon be found engulfed in flames. Authorities would swoop in and put out the blaze. In the remains of the building, they would find several disturbing things, such as animal remains, a cutting table with a large blade, and several bloody knives. They would also find another tape. In this one, the camera merely pans over different newspaper clippings that relate to different arson cases without any voiceover. This was enough for authorities to bring John in for questioning. He would soon break down and admit to both starting and filming the fire. The police had found their guy. Law enforcement would connect both John and Omar to 26 different fires that had occurred in Redwood in the late 80s, and the pair would both be tried as minors as they were under 18 when the crimes were committed. John would eventually be institutionalized at a psychiatric hospital, and Omar would be sentenced to juvenile detention. Their full identities have never been released, so we don't know exactly what happened to these two firebugs, but after they were thrown in the system, the fires around Redwood would mysteriously stop. Luckily, as far as we know, nobody was actually hurt in this case. The fires that Omar and John started mostly centered around a new suburban development that was being constructed, so most of the homes targeted were still unoccupied. Still though, this story is almost too strange to be real. This tape really seems like something from a Hollywood movie, and the fact that somebody just happened to find it on the side of the highway would be stereotypical if it was the opening of a found footage horror project. And yet, this all actually happened. I can't imagine how the Lua family felt after they first hit play on that tape. Good evening. You know, in our little corner of YouTube, a lot of content tends to focus around disturbing videos, as you probably know. I'm sure you've seen many uploads by channels similar to mine that document and explain mysterious and dark pieces of visual media people have found on the internet. It feels like sometimes that so many channels, including mine, are making content like this that the search for disturbing stuff ends up looking like the tail end of a gold rush. All the good stuff has been found already, and we're just kind of left searching through the leftover scraps. But there is one thing few others have thought to try though. You see, discussing disturbing videos is not a purely online phenomenon. In fact, before the internet was even around, there were many avenues you could take to watch content just like my channel. Usually, it was in the form of TV shows where viewers would send in their own home videos to be talked about, or the producers would find dark and disturbing security camera footage or police dashcam videos connected to real-world crimes. For example, the Stockton arsonist tape was originally covered on Unsolved Mysteries in the 1990s, but it would be subsequently covered by many other similar shows over the following decade. In the same manner that Nick Crawley might cover something and then other smaller YouTubers will feature the same clip in their own videos later on. These shows are like a catalog of dark and disturbing content that just never found its way into the internet age. Today, I've sorted through a ton of them to find the best and most disturbing stuff featured on these programs to bring to you guys. As far as I can tell, almost everything we're going to talk about today is more or less fresh to this corner of YouTube, and the internet in general in some cases. So grab a snack and a drink, and let's get back into it. While it may seem like many of the formats you're used to watching on YouTube are unique niches that have popped up as a result of the online video sharing ecosystem, you'd be surprised just how similar 2000s adolescent male-oriented TV shows can be. Spike TV was pumping out programs left and right that featured and investigated disturbing media. Destroyed in Seconds walked the viewer through home videos of large-scale catastrophes. World's Most Amazing Videos, one of my personal favorites as a kid, showcased found footage of car accidents, police chases, and security camera footage of crimes taking place. The craziest of this format though was probably most shocking. This show turned up the ante, often featuring really violent situations that occasionally resulted in actual deaths. It's sort of crazy to think this program only had a TV-14 rating considering just how violent the clips they featured were. These shows were a bit of a short-lived trend. They popped up in the late 90s, but by the time the internet took over as the main place to find interesting videos of reality, they began to die out. It can be interesting to compare the clips featured on a show like World's Most Amazing Videos to the videos featured on a channel like mine. The content is similar, but you can tell that the older clips featuring these 2000s reality shows are shaped not only by the lack of cameras in people's pockets, but also by the lack of a network to share these videos on. For these clips to find their way in front of people's eyes, they either needed to be found on the side of a road, or they had to be sent into a TV network. They couldn't just be uploaded to Reddit where multiple internet investigators would immediately pay attention to them. This makes the videos shown on these shows feel more significant than your average internet horror slop. No doubt because the showrunners behind these programs only chose the best and most fascinating submissions they got. One area of overlap, however, is in the world of police dashcam videos. The process for media producers to access these clips of law enforcement doing their job is largely unchanged from before and after online video sharing, and thus the situations you can see depicted in any of the many police body cam channels on YouTube greatly resembles that of 2000 Spike TV shows. They're both showing off the same sorts of crimes playing out in real time, but while the scenarios are similar, the ways they're filmed are not. Nowadays, channels like Code Blue Cam are incredibly slick and feature multiple angles of any given situation because every officer is wearing a body cam, which makes these videos feel oddly professional considering there's never any thought being put into how these clips are being captured in the moment. In the 2000s though, we only had one angle, the cop cruiser dash cam, and back then they weren't nearly as clear and sharp as modern dash cams. The single camera angle capturing things at a distance combined with the dark grainy quality can make these videos seem a little creepy, especially when something is being filmed at night. It just feels lonely and desolate, and you're never sure exactly what's going to happen when the cop steps out of his car. Texas, 2006. Trooper Stephen Stone initiates a traffic stop on a busy road in the city of Tyler. The car had been speeding, but as Stone walks up to its window, he notices an open container of alcohol. Inside the vehicle are two men. The cop asks the driver to step outside.
Go ahead and step out of the truck for me. Come back here, sir. Go ahead and step back here. Get out of the traffic.
He asks the driver if he has any weapons on him, to which the man says he has a pocket knife. Stone pats him down and finds a bag of weed in the driver's jacket.
Open container of alcohol in the vehicle.
That was not me.
That's not you?
I will not drink it. That's all this time.
Well, what's this?
Where?
This, what's in here? What is that? In this pocket? What is that?
Papers, things.
What's in there?
A weed.
What?
Weed.
Weed?
Yeah.
At this point, the trooper has a bad feeling, but has enough to go on to start an arrest. As he's placing handcuffs on the driver, something unexpected happens.
Okay, I got a bag full of drugs here. Turn around! Place your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Stop! Stay in the car! Get in the car!
As the passenger steps out, the driver pulls out a gun that the cop seemingly missed during the pat-down, and then the passenger pulls out one as well. I can't show you what happens next on YouTube, but Stone ends up getting shot many times at point blank. He screams as the pair gets back into their truck and start driving away. Miraculously, Stone not only survives the attack, but is able to stay lucid enough to radio into HQ and give them a physical description of his assailants.
It's gonna be a blue pickup truck, two Hispanic males.
Paramedics rush to the wounded trooper as every available officer in Tyler begins the manhunt. Soon enough, the two men in the truck have a line of cop cars following them. They begin shooting out the window towards the officers as if they were living out a GTA mission in real life. The passenger eventually pulls out a rapid-fire assault rifle and begins hailing the trailing cruisers with a flurry of bullets. The driver starts shooting as well, but this would end up being a fatal mistake. By taking his eyes off the road, he accidentally swerves sharply to the right, flipping his vehicle over in a spectacular fashion, again like something out of a video game or a movie. A crowd of officers descend on the overturned vehicle and apprehend the two gunmen, putting an end to their very short but astonishing reign of terror. Trooper Stone was brought to the hospital in critical condition, but would luckily make a full recovery, being saved in no small part by his battered bulletproof vest. The two men in the truck would be identified as Mexican nationals Ramon Armando Ramos and Francisco Saucedo. They would both be slapped with 14 consecutive life sentences. The odd thing about this situation is that it's never actually come out just what these men were even up to. Why were they so insanely aggressive towards law enforcement? Police would find multiple automatic rifles, handguns, and bulletproof vests in their truck, but they'd only find a little bit of weed. It makes you wonder just what they might have been planning to do with all those weapons. So far, we've covered a literal piece of found footage and a police dashcam video, but there's one category of pre-internet visual media that will be impossible not to cover in a video like this: home movies. I actually did an entire video about home movies a few months ago, so I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but in short, home videos are a bit of a lost art. With everyone now having cameras in their pockets that allow them to film and share short clips with whoever they want at a moment's notice, it feels like as a society we've lost the ability to make proper home movies. For example, every Christmas my dad would set up our family camcorder in the corner of our living room to record all of Christmas morning, like 3 hours of consecutive footage each year. This was how home movies used to be made. They would be these long-form pieces of media that only exist to document how important moments in your everyday life are playing out in their entirety. People just don't really do this as much anymore. They mostly film short clips with their phones and then post them to social media. You can't really film for 3 hours with your iPhone because it would run out of power and then you wouldn't be able to doom scroll through Twitter anymore. This has resulted in a lot of the sort of interesting videos you see online being more reactive in nature rather than unknowingly capturing something interesting. If you go to a subreddit like Public Freakout and try to analyze the videos there, you'll notice they almost without fail always seem to start in the middle of whatever situation they're capturing. Very rarely will you see something accidentally caught on camera. It does happen, just not very often. People mostly tend to break out their phones to vertically film situations after they start. Before the internet though, videos of weird things caught on camera tended to happen because a person holding the camcorder just so happened to be filming something else at the time. The most famous example of this would definitely be the only known angle of the first plane hitting the World Trade Center. It starts with an angle of some firemen doing something in downtown New York, and the camera whips around just in time to capture the impact mere moments before it occurs. When you consider found footage horror, this is a trope it's based on. A movie like Cloverfield starts as a normal home video, but devolves into something else entirely as the movie goes on. The same can be said of our next topic. Maryland, 1997. In a suburb of Baltimore, the McDonald family films their Sunday picnic. It's a beautiful summer day. Grandpa's blowing bubbles, the kids are running around, everyone is relaxed and having a good time. But that mood would change almost instantly. Family members would later report looking up and seeing a flat gray piece of metal falling from the sky, which wasn't caught on camera. But what was captured was the aftermath.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Get back, Grandpa.
Almost in an instant, their neighbor's house is gone, being replaced with a raging inferno. Moments later, a man would be caught on film parachuting to the ground. The McDonalds would quickly rush to his aid, giving him a chair to sit on. Nobody could explain what happened, and talking to the man would only make the situation stranger. He was a pilot, but not of a bush plane or a Cessna. No, he was flying a stealth bomber, specifically an F-117 Nighthawk, a $42 million aircraft developed as part of a Black Project, a highly classified top-secret military initiative that isn't publicly acknowledged by the government. And here it was on the McDonald's front lawn. Once the authorities arrived, the situation would become more clear. The bomber had been flying as part of the Chesapeake Air Show, which had been taking place in the nearby town of Middle River. Major Brian Knight had been piloting the aircraft when it lost its port wing while flying above the air show. He maneuvered the bomber as best he could, but had to eject shortly before it hit the ground. A later investigation would reveal that the aircraft had been missing 4 fasteners on its port wing structural support assembly, which caused it to snap off mid-air. While several homes were demolished as a result of the bomber crashing into the residential neighborhood of Bowley's Quarters, only 4 injuries were reported as a result of the spectacular crash. In a crazy stroke of luck, nobody had been inside the house that the aircraft had crashed into. The video taken by the McDonald family remains to this day one of the most insane examples of how a completely normal home movie can accidentally capture something remarkable, in turn creating a unique form of accidental media that you don't really see much anymore. Our final topic for today is another example of this same phenomenon. You probably wouldn't guess based on the content I normally make, but one of my favorite niches to watch on YouTube is camping videos. There's nothing more cozy than watching someone find a nice scenic spot in nature and then hunkering down for the night. My 2 favorite camping channels are Northern Scavenger, who likes to kayak to different interesting islands off the coast of Nova Scotia, and also Steve Wallace, another Canadian who's most well known for his stealth camping videos, where he'll pitch a tent for the night in a roundabout, a highway median, or some other strange spot like that. There's something oddly entertaining about the concept. It's interesting that you can actually make a living simply by filming yourself camping and then posting it to the internet. But like everything else we've talked about today, it's not quite as new of a media genre as you might think, especially here in Canada. There's almost no difference between what Northern Scavenger does in the 2020s and what documentary filmmaker Bill Mason was doing in the 70s and 80s. If you ever wanted to watch an iconic piece of Canadian filmmaking, then you should definitely check out Water Walker, a 1984 documentary that follows Mason on a canoe trip through Lake Superior. The aesthetics behind this Canadian style of camping documentary was the main source of inspiration for the Scottish band Boards of Canada, whose name comes from the National Film Board of Canada, the agency that produced these films. Our final story for today, though, doesn't actually take place in Canada. Montana, 1988. Brothers Ron and Bob Michelson are just starting their annual camping trip in the Beartooth Mountains. They're bringing their horses into the bush, where they then set up camp and settle in for the night. When they eventually wake up, though, it doesn't seem like they're in the woods anymore.
Holy shoot. And that's the only way out right there. Our archery is found. It's spring. Spring's going up. That's what we got coming towards us. Not a thing we can do.
They exit their tents and find that they are now in hell. They're surrounded by sky-high walls of flame on all sides. There's no way out. All they can do is sit and film the carnage that's unfolding in front of them.
It's getting big. I have never seen such a thing in my entire life.
They decide to put their vehicles and equipment in a circle in an effort to protect themselves and their horses from the inferno that's quickly closing in on them. This effort appears to be in vain, though, as a fire easily overtakes the vehicles, so they cut the horses free and just make a run for it, every man for themselves. As the men are choking on the smoke, the rifle ammunition they had stored in their trucks starts exploding from the heat, garnishing this already hellish nightmare with a fresh hail of gunfire.
Oh boy, holy, you're all looking. Sound like it's a machine gun down there.
Bob and Ron truly think they're gonna die, but in a last-ditch effort to save themselves, they turn off the camera, grab some blankets, and then they lay down in a nearby creek. When the video cuts back in, the men appear to be okay. They survived. It's the next morning now and the fire appears to have fully burned itself out. Everything is covered in an eerie sheet of gray ash, and the surrounding area looks completely different than it had mere hours before. As Ron is filming, he hears something, a distant whine. He turns around and in a crazy stroke of luck, both of the pair's horses are completely fine, just a little shook up. The 2 brothers hadn't known it at the time, but they had been caught in the middle of one of the Yellowstone fires of 1988, the largest collective wildfire Yellowstone Park has ever seen. It was a series of 250 smaller fires that burned through an exceptionally dry summer, destroying 3,000 square kilometers of forest in Yellowstone and the surrounding area. This might be one of the most wild camping videos I've ever seen. And yet, the only way you can watch it is by piecing together different clips of it that were featured in these 2000 Spike TV shows. Other than that, it just simply isn't on the internet. It's not lost media, but it's also not complete media either. It makes you wonder, what other random pieces of lost footage are laying dormant in the distant corners of forgotten reality television? Shows like World's Most Amazing Videos were considered by TV networks to be filler programming. Cheap, forgettable content that the broadcaster can show when they don't have anything better to air. These shows would never be immortalized after being cancelled. The only reason you can even see them today is that fans cared enough to record them when they originally aired, and then they uploaded them to YouTube, where they can luckily still be watched because no network cared enough to copyright strike the content. It's clear, these sorts of shows weren't valued very much, but I think they inadvertently did us all a service by preserving pieces of these pre-internet videos. It's fascinating to compare them to their modern counterparts. If you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll do another like it in the future. We've only scratched the surface of this pre-internet world. There's a lot more we could go through if you guys like this sort of thing. But until then, thanks for watching.